Can everyone see it now?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
So welcome everyone to our 8th session. Today we're going through Trinidad and Tobago as well as Guadeloupe. I guess the one plug I should indicate for everybody is that this program is made possible through a grant from the North Carolina Arts Council and the local Arts and Cultural Commission here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Even though it was pixelated, the music of Trinidad I wanted to present was a steel drum band. And this was like, I thought pretty cool. I found it online by the Metronome Steel Orchestra. That was the first 3 minutes. And even though it may not have come across very well, the second one was a dance, the Woka dance from Guadeloupe. And again, if I say these things wrong, I want some folks to correct me, okay? Let me see if I can move this out of the way. So each week, okay, Tyrone. Each week we play a song, we go over the overview, I introduce the clinician for today, and we have the presentation. Next week, we'll have the music of the Black church. Well, that's the topic. The references, like we said in the past, have been the Encyclopedia of the African American and African American Experiences, edited by Henry Louis Gates and Kwame Anthony Appiah. Last week when we were talking about the music of Cuba and Puerto Rico, and you will remember, those of you that were on the call, some of the music and dance of Brazil, specifically Baha'i. I used this pamphlet that I got when I lived in New York called African Religion in the Caribbean, Santeria and Voodoo. So that's what we talked about last week. Other references that we've used for this particular music of African people is Black in Latin America by Henry Louis Gates. I've not really referenced the book They Came Before Columbus yet by Ivan Van Sertima, but we'll probably be able to reference some of that when we land in the music of the United States of America. So this is a review for anyone that was on the call previously, but anyone that's new, this is sort of a synopsis of the number of people stripped of their homeland in West Africa and transported to South, Central, and North America. Estimates differ in terms of the actual numbers, but some people say 12 million were taken. There's another historian that says there were almost 100 million that were taken from the homeland. Today, though, we're specifically focused on Trinidad and Tobago. According to these numbers, almost 44,000 were taken from their homeland in Africa to Trinidad and Tobago. And for Guadeloupe, looks like the number, according to this particular source, 73,000 were taken from Africa to Guadeloupe. So in our regular tradition where we start with a few facts and then we'll have a discussion. For Trinidad and Tobago, it's a country consisting of 2 islands, roughly 35 kilometers or 22 miles apart, and is one of the most diverse Caribbean nations. Trinidad and Tobago lie just northeast of Venezuela. Like those of other Caribbean islands, Trinidad and Tobago's earliest populations were South American indigenous groups, gradually migrating north from the South American continent. Although Columbus claimed Trinidad for Spain in 1498, over the next 300 years, Spanish colonists generally only returned to the island long enough to capture many of the indigenous Arawaks and Caribs, I hope I'm saying that right, and sell them into slavery in other Spanish Caribbean colonies. In 1702, a small number of Black slaves who had been taken from their homes in West Africa were imported to Trinidad to work on cacao plantations. Anybody know how to say that? Just let me know in the chat. While there were only 310 Trinidadian slaves in 1783, by 1797, there were nearly 10,000. So what is that? 14 years from 310 slaves to 10,000. Again, according to Henry Louis Gates. That same year, there were also 4,476 free non-whites in Trinidad, mostly the mixed race offspring of white planters and slaves or immigrants from other Caribbean nations, or other Caribbean islands. Finally, by 1791, 94% of Tobago's 12,102 residents were African slaves. Most worked on the sugar plantations. Finally, Trinidad had the largest free Afro-Creole population in the Caribbean. Many of these free Blacks were landowners and some were slaveholders. You'll find the same, not as much in this country, but it did exist where some Blacks actually owned slaves. Today, though, more than 80% of Trinidadians and Tobagians are the descendants of either African slaves or what I like to say enslaved people or East Indian indentured servants. And that's the facts I have for Trinidad and Tobago. Now we're spending the bulk of our time today on Guadeloupe. Guadeloupe is a Caribbean island that was colonized by France in the 1600s. It became known to European civilization during Columbus' second voyage, when he stopped there in November of 1493. The island then was populated by Carib. Please let me know how to say that, Francois?
Caribs.
Okay, good. Originally from the Amazon.
Yeah.
First colonized by the French in 1635, Guadeloupe has produced sugarcane and its derivatives for France for nearly 3 centuries, thanks to the labor of African enslaved people and their descendants. Since the abolition of slavery in 1848 and the incorporation of the island and its dependencies into France in 1946, the predominantly Black population of Guadeloupe has had to negotiate the double cultural inheritance at the root of its Creole civilization. And this is where I want to introduce our guest today, Dr. Francois Locreole. Hope I said that right. I like her quote, "We have a duty to remember, but we still need to know our heroes. The history of the Caribbean is oral. It demands to take the time to find those who can testify and transcribe these traces." She has a doctorate in musicology and is also a flautist and composer. I met her when, well, I guess we were at Berkeley at the same time. I met her when I came to Guadeloupe to do something for the Chantier Musical International. I think there were 6 composers from around the world that came to write a hymn for peace. Her website is here at the bottom, and anybody that wants a copy of this presentation can get it. So, without further ado, I want to introduce Francois and her able translator, which is someone I also call a friend, Miss Jamila Alio. Jamila, say your name.
Aliwa Jamila.
That's what I handle with my speakers here. If sound is not coming through well.
Can you hear me now?
Anyway, Jamila is an attorney, a musician, and manager of the James Brown Band. So look, let me see if I can pass control. Francois, you want to have control and then have just Jamila translate?
Yeah.
Hey, it's Sarah here. Tyrone, have you stopped sharing your screen? I think
Okay,
you
one
can,
second. Your sound is very low. Let me check something here.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
No, it was my speaker that was low. Try it now.
Oh, cool. So if you stop sharing, I think you should have at the bottom a sharing button. You can choose to stop sharing, and that should allow someone else to be able to then click on share screen.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
So Francois, do you want to take control, or do I need to, can you do it from your end?
I prefer that you lead. I'm not very good at it.
All right, cool. All right, so let me introduce Miss Francois and Jamila. She's in the upper, well, on my screen, upper left-hand corner, and she's written a book about the music of Guadeloupe. So I think we have her here on very good authority. And I consider her a friend. You got it.
You want me to go on the music of Guadeloupe?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I will speak in French since I have a translator. La musique que vous avez écoutée au début de la présentation, c'est donc une musique traditionnelle de la Guadeloupe qui s'appelle le groka.
The music you just have been listening to when Tyrone was introducing it's a music originated from Guadeloupe and it's called the guaca.
Donc le groka, en Guadeloupe, il y a différents types de musique, bien évidemment, comme dans toute la Caraïbe.
there's different type of music in Guadeloupe, like in the whole Caribbean land.
Mais le gros cas, c'est la musique de la Guadeloupe qui a conservé, qui a le plus de racines africaines.
The Guaca of Guadeloupe has actually kept their roots, African roots, and they're still playing it now.
Donc c'est une musique qui a joué un rôle très important sur le plan social en Guadeloupe.
Okay. This music was very important on the social, on human and social category in Guadeloupe.
Parce que c'est une musique donc, au sein de laquelle on trouve différents 7 rythmes de base qui sont aussi accompagnés par des danses.
Okay, in this music, you can find 7 different basic rhythm of the music that is also being played at the same time and dancing as well.
Et ce n'est pas simplement une musique qui est faite pour danser, pour s'amuser, mais c'est aussi une musique pour accompagner les chants de travail, par exemple, lorsque les personnes étaient en train de râper une tubercule qu'on appelle le manioc en Guadeloupe. Ils étaient accompagnés par les tambours et par cette musique.
So the music, it's not only a music to play, but only to dance. And it was actually, while people were actually what we call great tamba in Guadeloupe, were actually trying to accompany the people that were actually working in the field.
Donc c'est à la fois une musique pour le carnaval, par exemple, un des rythmes de cette musique accompagnait les chants de carnaval. On a aussi des chants de travail et on a aussi des musiques incantatoires qui sont des chants d'amour.
Okay, this is also music for carnival, for work, and for love. Well, actually, that's how it works.
Donc, cette musique est indissociable de la danse, et donc c'est un dialogue entre celui qui joue le tambour et le danseur, un peu comme une improvisation en fait commune, et le danseur essaye de provoquer le percussionniste, et le percussionniste peut aussi faire la même chose.
The music, the kwaka, is not only music, but it's not, you can't separate it from the dance. And it's like improvisation between the music and the dance. And actually what happens is that the musician, the drummer who's doing the music is actually trying to provoke the dancer, and the dancer will do the same thing in return with a certain rhythm.
Et donc, c'est un échange entre les deux qui va finalement arriver à un moment de paroxysme de la musique et de la danse.
It's an exchange between both of them, and it comes to a high level between the dance and the music.
Et cette musique, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, avait un rôle social. Et c'était aussi une musique qui servait pendant cette période d'esclavage à prévenir certaines personnes qui habitaient un peu loin de l'endroit où on jouait, à prévenir de certains dangers.
Yeah, at the same time, like Françoise said, it's a social, well, it's communication music as well. It was when people were trying to work, the percussionist was actually trying to call them and let them know that something was happening, like there was danger.
Et donc, on dit souvent qu'on peut faire parler ce tambour, que le tambourka, c'est un tambour qui peut parler, c'est-à-dire qui a son propre langage. Et pour faire parler le tambour, les musiciens ont une manière très précise de jouer avec le talon, avec le pied et le talon.
Okay, so Françoise was also saying that the drummer has a way of expressing themselves. They say in Guadeloupe, it's talking, it's speaking. and the drummer has a way to make it speak with his foot, with the back of his foot. So that's how it works.
Donc cette musique a beaucoup évolué au fil du temps. Il y a donc, comme je disais tout à l'heure, des tambours, 2 tambours, un tambour qu'on appelle le tambour boula qui fait le rythme de base, un des 7 rythmes dont j'ai parlé tout à l'heure, et un autre tambour qui s'appelle le tambour maquet qui lui va improviser sur ce rythme de base.
And the guaca has taken more and more evolution in with the years. So you've got one drummer called that's 2 drummers, one called the bula. Is that right?
Yeah, the physical rhythm.
Physical rhythm, the bula, who's gonna do the tempo and the rhythm on time. And the second one, Françoise, quel était le deuxième?
Maquet.
De maquet. Et le rôle du maquet, s'il te plaît?
Improvise.
To improvise. Merci beaucoup, Françoise.
So, plus you have other instruments for this band, a kind of very big calabash. And vous avez aussi des chanteurs. Alors, un chanteur leader, et puis bien sûr les chœurs qui répondent. Et c'est aussi un dialogue. Donc, il y a ce dialogue entre le danseur et les musiciens, et aussi un dialogue entre les chœurs et le chanteur leader.
So you've got a front singer, and you've a leader singer, and you've got a choir. So, and it's a question response between the singer and the choir, but also you have with the drummer, that's a question and response with the singer and the dancers.
Et ce qui est très intéressant dans cette musique, c'est que c'est une musique qui est véritablement improvisée dans la mesure où il y a donc l'improvisation, bien sûr, des batteurs, de ceux qui jouent du tambour, mais souvent aussi l'improvisation du chanteur qui part de quelques bribes ou d'une chanson qui est connue et qui, à partir de ce qui se passe dans le village où il se trouve ou à partir d'un moment bien précis, va improviser aussi des textes de chansons.
Ok. Je reposerai ensuite parce que là, c'était un peu trop long.
Non, ok.
So, it was, vous me corrigez, François, s'il y a un petit souci, if I can remember, is that everything is starting from improvising. The singer will do one thing. He's going to start with a small either rhythm that he knows from a small rhythm that he knows from either a known song or that he's going to invent himself. And then from there, he's going to improvise and start the singing. C'était bon ce que... Merci.
Yes, oui. And the same thing for the drummer.
Pardon?
And it's the same thing for the drummer.
Same thing for the drummer. In fact, drummer and singers are just one, I guess, when they're playing, they're performing together.
Yes, yeah. Do you have any?
So I have a question, and we may want to open this up as well. This sounds like it's very, that we're using improvisation in Guoka, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you see any difference between that type of style and let's say the music of the Black gospel in the United States or the music in West Africa? I'm trying to find a common thread, whatever that common thread would be. How do you view the common thread, let's say from West Africa to Guadeloupe?
The common thread, le fil conducteur, c'est en effet la forme responsoriale, c'est-à-dire un appel, un chanteur qui va donner comment dirais-je, un air de base et puis les réponses. Ça, c'est la forme commune.
Okay, the thread between all this kind of music is the responsorial, which one is going to start and the other one, that's like question and response. That's what it is. That's the thread.
Yeah, that's what I wanted, because we call it call and response.
Yeah.
So
That's it. Full response.
call and response. So when you go to church, at least the black church, I don't know how it works in the white church. If the preacher says, "Can I get an amen?" and everybody says amen, okay, that's the call and that's the response. You know. So.
Et tout au début du gros cas, en effet, le chanteur va appeler les choristes et leur demander, leur dire, est-ce que vous êtes prêts à me répondre? Parce qu'il ne peut pas chanter tout seul.
So at the beginning of the guaca, the singer was actually singing, and he was going to call the choir and say, are you ready to respond to what I'm going to sing?
Cool. Any other questions before we get too far that you would like Francois to address? Don't everybody talk at the same time.
So I have a quick question, and I'm really sorry if you've addressed this already, because my computer turned itself off, so I had to recharge the battery. But I wondered if the music in Guadeloupe and music in Martinique, for example, was similar, or if guaca was specific to Guadeloupe.
Le gros cas est spécifique à la Guadeloupe, mais toutes ces îles qui sont proches géographiquement ont des musiques, ont les mêmes racines, et souvent les rythmes de base sont des rythmes communs qui ont été un petit peu modifiés et qui sont un petit peu différents dans chaque île, mais on retrouve des racines communes. Et c'est la même chose au niveau de la danse. Donc, en Martinique, c'est différent, mais il y a aussi des racines communes. Lorsqu'on connaît ces musiques, on entend la différence, mais ce sont comme des branches d'un même arbre, en fait.
Je ne sais pas si je vais tout retenir, François. I'm going to do. Hi, Sarah. I'm going to do my best. In fact, guaca is really specific. I'm going to shorten it. Guaca is.
So
really
for me, it's okay because je suis française, so it's for everyone else.
Vous avez bien compris. So
Donc moi j'ai compris, oui.
Guaca is the base, the music to answer Sarah's question. The music, guaca is specific to Guadeloupe. In Martinique and all around African borders around, they have their own music, but I guess also it's been modified. The music's been modified, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, and Françoise will correct me, because I did some research, is that the music from Martinique and other countryside also actually copied a bit from the guaca to make their own music.
Not especially. Elles ont, alors, les instruments sont différents parce que le tambour que l'on utilise pour jouer le gros-ca n'est pas du tout le même que celui que l'on utilise pour jouer le même type de musique qui s'appelle le belay en Martinique. Donc, l'instrumentation est différente et les rythmes sont différents, mais on sent bien que ce sont les mêmes racines.
Okay. So merci, Françoise. Françoise was saying that the instruments are totally different from the drums in Guadeloupe for the guaca, and in Martinique are around. But because in Martinique you've got this, the music is called ballet, but the roots are totally different, but they have their own music.
Any other questions? Because I want to ask her to talk a little bit about the festival that you put on that I attended back in the day, the Musical Chantier. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you had
Tyrone?
Yes. Oh.
You had a question in the chat about the possibility of someone playing a selection of guoca music since it was garbled initially. I guess so that people can, those of us who are not familiar, can have an audio
Idea.
sense of what we're talking about.
So that probably means I should just send everybody the link, I guess, because if I play it now, it would still be garbled, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. Did anyone get a good audio rendition of? No. Okay. So I will send a link to everybody. Ryan, did you get a good one?
No, I didn't. And I've got a question because I believe I've seen it performed. There's a singer and a choir.
Yeah.
There's a drummer that does the basic rhythm. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
And the other drummer who does the improvisation.
Yeah.
And there's an interplay between the drummer who's doing the improvisation and the singer and the dancer.
Yes, you can have several dancers and a lead singer and a choir. But the choir, it could be the musicians, the drummers or other musicians.
Ah, so now the time that I saw it perform, there was a whole slew of drummers.
It's possible.
One
too.
was the lead drummer. I mean, a number of them were playing the basic rhythms. They're playing different rhythms. And I heard you say there were like 7 different rhythms. So they were playing basic rhythms. And then there was one who was doing a call and response, I guess, with the dancer. In this case, there weren't any singer. So is that correct? There can be a number of drummers?
Traditionally, it was only 2 drummers or two drummers that will play the basic rhythm and another drummer that will improvise. But in the 80s, there was a group of young musicians who start to work on a new form of groka. And with this new band called Takuta, they start to have a new style in groka with many drums. You see, so it will be the improviser and maybe two drums that will play the basic rhythm, and the others that will do a kind of polyrhythmic rhythm. So this is the new style in groka, but traditionally it was just 2 rhythms, the basic rhythm and the improviser.
Thank you.
Tyrone, you wanted me to talk about the chantier musical?
Yes. Before we go to another performance, we have a performance by Brother Jen. So yeah, if you could just give an overview of how you came up with that, the number of composers you brought there, and how did it work? How was it received?
Yeah. J'avais rencontré l'ancien maire de la ville de Basse-Terre en Guadeloupe, qui est le chef-lieu de la Guadeloupe, et il m'avait dit qu'il souhaitait organiser une manifestation d'ampleur dans sa ville.
She met the mayor of Basse-Terre, who is the chief of the town of Guadeloupe, and he told Françoise that he wanted to have a huge music event in his town.
Et donc, il m'a dit, écoutez, imaginez quelque chose, trouvez-moi une idée, vous avez le feu vert, si cette idée me convient, on la réalise.
And he told her, he said, imagine something you have in mind, if you got an idea. If this idea suits me, then we will realize it. And
Donc,
make it.
Francois, was that Minister Farouja?
Yeah, that's right.
He was the
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
And so j'ai commencé à réfléchir et donc j'ai pensé à cette idée de créer un hymne à la paix et d'avoir justement symboliquement des musiciens qui viennent du monde entier, enfin en tout cas d'un certain nombre de pays et des chefs d'orchestre qui pouvaient donc venir aussi de différents pays et faire en sorte qu'ils créent ensemble en 5 mouvements cet hymne à la paix.
So what Françoise did, she started to think, and what happened, and she wanted to think about a hymn, a to peace. So she decided to bring musicians from all around the world, and that could actually make this work and do this hymn of peace.
Donc j'ai commencé par essayer de recruter donc des chefs d'orchestre, ensuite échanger avec eux, discuter avec eux, organiser un séminaire pour qu'ils puissent se rencontrer. Et une fois que ça a été fait, dans un deuxième temps, la deuxième étape a été le recrutement de jeunes musiciens. Et la troisième étape a été donc la réalisation de ce projet durant 3 semaines, qui a été un projet qui a été filmé et qui a donné lieu à donc un film sur la manifestation et différents films sur les chefs d'orchestre.
Donc la première étape, excusez-moi François, c'était quoi la première étape?
La première étape, donc, c'était le recrutement des musiciens, des chefs d'orchestre.
Chef d'orchestre. La deuxième étape?
Un séminaire avec eux pour voilà, organiser les choses. La troisième, donc le recrutement des musiciens.
Recrutement
Et
des musiciens.
La quatrième, la réalisation pendant 3 semaines du projet avec la réalisation de films sur le projet et sur les chefs d'orchestre et leurs orchestres.
D'accord. So what Françoise did, she's tried to recruit conductors, orchestra conductors. So that was the first step for it. Merci beaucoup. The first step. The second step was to organize a seminar with all these people. The third step was to try to recruit the musicians to make this work. And the fourth step was to have this big show and have it on camera and have it filmed. So how long did it take?
3 weeks.
And it took 3 weeks to organize all this.
No, not to realize it.
To just realize it.
Yes. It took a year and a half to organize it.
Right. So it took a year and a half to organize it, 3 weeks to realize just those 4 steps to move forward.
Very good. My last question is, and this is sort of selfish, do you have a recording of it? Because I never got one. So we can take that offline, but yeah.
Yes, I have one somewhere.
Okay, right. I'm watching our time. Any other questions for Sister Francoise? Okay,
Sorry, I have another question. And again, I'm really sorry if it was covered while my computer was off, but in the previous, when we talked about the Brazil and we talked about Puerto Rico and Cuba, we talked a lot about the spirituality link to the music. And I wondered if there was also a strong spiritual origin to the music. And again, if you've covered this, Françoise, I'm really sorry to make you repeat it.
No, I didn't. Yes, oui, il y a aussi, alors de moins en moins, disons que bon, c'est devenu plus une musique profane, comme on pourrait dire, mais il y a un certain nombre de symboles qui sont attachés qui étaient attachés, qui le sont de moins en moins, par exemple à la fabrication du tambour, à différents symboles, à la corde que l'on utilise pour le tambour, à la préparation de la peau, qui est liée à la pleine lune, à un certain nombre de rituels que l'on a pour la préparation de ce tambour, qui est aussi pour les Guadeloupéens traditionnellement le symbole de leur âme.
Il faudra que vous me redisiez une partie parce que là, pour traduire la totalité, ce n'est pas possible.
J'ai parlé donc de la spiritualité pendant la préparation du tambour, de la peau.
So Françoise was saying that she was talking about the spirituality side while they were preparing the drum.
Ouais. Oui, aux différents symboles qui sont liés à ce tambour, le symbole du cercle et de la corde qui entoure le cercle du tambour.
And she was also talking about the symbol of the circle that was around that drum and the cord that goes with it to fabricate actually the drum. But it's less and less used now, well, it's less and less on the spiritual side compared to years ago when it started.
Yeah, that's right.
That sounds very similar to the clinicians we had from Baha'i, talking about the dance and how the dance there was more aligned with their religion versus what you see in Rio de Janeiro with women who are scantily clad, you know, with flowers on top of the head. It has very little to do with the commercialization of it in terms of what they do in Baha'i. It's all religious based, Sarah, like you indicated earlier. Yeah. Any other questions? Well, I want to thank Sister Francois for that. We have one other very interesting addition. Hans, are you there? Is it Hans or John?
Yeah.
Okay. He's going to perform a piece. But why don't you explain to everybody what you're going to do? Is I have it on my PowerPoint, but I don't want to lose everybody.
Sure. Well, I'll play a piece. Wait a second, you can't see me. This is better. I'll play a piece presumably by Joseph Boulogne, Chevalier Saint-Georges. He was the son of a slave mother and a white aristocrat landowner on Guadeloupe. And he was sent to Paris to study music in his teens, I think 12 or 13. We don't even really know when he was born. We believe it was 1745, but there were some arguments about that. And he was not only a fantastic violinist, super virtuoso and composer, but he was also a fencer. And he would fight against renowned personalities in Europe. He was invited even to the Prince of Wales and all over France and in Germany. Yeah. So, and what we know is that he left some violin concertos and some quartets. But there is a stack of music which was found in the castle of the Comtesse de Bourbon, the Countess of Bourbon. And we think that most of this music is written by Saint-Georges. We don't know it for sure, but I'll play one of his piano pieces from this stack. Okay. Now the time is a little already, it's getting close. Shall I play the entire piece? Because there is, in October 2019, I was invited to Guadeloupe to perform at the Memorial Arc, the slavery museum there, with the French violinist Romuald Grimberbaré. And I have a little clip of that too. I don't know what makes sense.
I say let's go for everything. In some of our earlier meetings, we went to an hour and 15 minutes. So if someone has to drop off, I understand. But let's go with what feels good. So let's just keep on going.
Okay, good. So this will be a little piano sonata. Maybe I should leave out the repeat, and it's not that long. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. There's not, of course, we can't hear much African music in that, except that it's full of ornamentation. And of course, he didn't play this on the piano, on the modern piano, but on the clavecin, on the cembalo, on the harpsichord. This is the English word. And it leaves a lot of possibilities for ornamentation. And, you know, some of the French ornamentation has to be very strict, but he just writes some marks that you can do an ornamentation there. And to me, this is a little bit of improvisation, if you want, in all this very strict formal setting of music. And of course, I mean, he was 18th century composer. So it had to be a little formal to be accepted. As a matter of fact, he was offered a position on the French court, but some of the singers and musicians, they said, no, a person with dark skin can be a conductor here or can be the court musician, which is really unfortunate. He had kind of 3 lives. This one in Guadeloupe, and then, the life as a musician, the life as a fencer, and then at the end of his life, he was made a colonel of an army just with black people, and he would travel to Guadeloupe to help the movement against slavery. And they succeeded, but unfortunately 4 years after his death, Napoleon I re-established slavery in Guadeloupe again. Yeah, I have this little clip, and I don't know how to do it. I tried it on before. I think you would need to, or, you know, Tyrone, maybe I could, since you have the screen, wait a minute. How can I do this?
Well, is it a MP4 or something that I could just send as an attachment to the slide, the presentation we had today?
I have it on my homepage now. If
Okay.
you want to go on my homepage right now, I don't know how to minimize my screen here.
Well, that's you and me both. I'm suggesting that it might be better to maybe when I send the materials out to everybody, that I give them the link then. What do you think?
Sure, yes. All right.
I really, really appreciate that, what you did, because we're covering sort of the stereotypic genres that people associate with Africans, you know, the drumming of West Africa, the samba or the dances in Baha'i, the calypso in Trinidad. So I'm really glad you talked about that, because there are many people who excel in European classical music. So I wasn't one of them. I played in the orchestra at the 10th grade, but you know, the trombones have 85,000 measures rest before they come back in. So it wasn't a big turn on for me. But you know, if I was a violin player, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, having heard none, let me tell you what we're going to start doing next week. We're done now with Africa, the Middle Passage, South America, and the Caribbean. The last 4 sessions deal with the music of this country. We start next week with the music of the church, one of my favorites. It'll feature my bride. Oh, you can't see her, but Tony Tuppence will lead that one. And then Lavelle Bradford will lead the session on jazz from New Orleans up the Mississippi and all points north, including Chicago, and starting or ending in New York City. And at the very last session, I want to bring in some young people, because I think they're crazy when it comes to preserving the legacy of Black folks. Maybe, Francois, maybe I'm getting too old, because some of the music I hear on the radio now is in my opinion, trash. But I want to give them a voice. So the last session will bring in musicians today so they can speak. And I promised Tony I wouldn't curse. So anything else before we end for the good of the order? Well, I want to thank everybody, especially our guest, Francois, Jamila, for translating, Jen for his great rendition. If anybody else on the call has a talent, you know, we'll make this like, see, Black folks do a little different thing. You know, all you gotta do is raise your hand and say, I can do this. And if you're good at it, you can do it. You'll be part of the family. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.